Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech Niger FM, where we spotlight innovators and technology leaders that are shaping Africa's digital future. I remain your host, Babatunde Esanju, and today we are diving into a crucial topic, digital transformation and strategic leadership, which speaks to when you are building a scalable system for Africa future. Today, I have on the show with me Olaolu Ajose, who happens to be head of engineering and former lead consultant at ThoughtWorks. Olaolu, it's a prayer to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Babatunde. Pleasure to.
Yeah, so we dive straight into it. You have such interesting journey from your profile, from leading consulting projects at ThoughtWorks to the engineering. Can you walk us through that journey and what
Yeah.
shapes your perspective on building large scale system?
Okay. Before that time, I actually co-founded a company called Shaka. I don't know if you heard of the
Oh
company.
wow.
It allows people to
No, I don't.
uh, Nigerians and Africa access to the global market, and that would be being able to just use a phone to buy Apple or buy GT Bank stocks and all that kind of stuff. Company's now acquired. Um, yes, so
Wow.
it's been an interesting journey. I started as a support at InterSwitch, but that would be 2009. Right? So we've been around the block for a bit. Then joined companies like Facil, where we worked on projects. I don't know if you heard of UDirect. Uh, that would be
I
UBA.
think I've yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's been long ago.
still a long time.
It's been long.
I was on the project at some point. Then what's it called? Access Bank Primus. I don't know if you heard of that
No,
too.
I don't.
Yeah, it was.
No, I don't.
They are corporate and I think partly retail banking solution by Access Bank. So yeah, then being on project with Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, um, American University. So quite a lot of experience both on the consulting and actual engineering space. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Wow, wow, that's a good one. I didn't know some of these things. Maybe because I didn't make my findings.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
I
that's why I didn't know.
bet.
That's true. That's true. When we are talking about scalability,
Okay.
uh, having worked in all these industry, all these companies that you mentioned,
Mhm.
uh, how can startup plan for it early?
Excellent question. I used to say that scalability is a mindset. It is not how many. It's not per se how many requests you're handling. When people hear scalability, people talk in terms of how many numbers or people you're serving, or the requests of APIs per seconds. That's not scalability. You have to think about them in different verticals. One, you can scale the product. So you have a product that's offering maybe just one product, then you layer another on top of it, or you maybe put some extra features on top of that single product. For example, if you have a single payment platform and you introduce a bulk payment, that's scaling, right? But don't
Mm,
when you do that, it comes with different things you need to be aware of. So there's product skill, there's people skill. When you have a team from one and now you guys are 10, that's scale, right? So you don't think of scaling only from the point of view of, how many people are processing on this particular platform, right? So when you go to another country, that's also scale. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
exactly. So I want you to first, decongest that mentality of scaling means now we're serving 100 million people. It's part of scale, but that's not every single thing because for somebody who is not conditioned to handle four people, to manage four people, suddenly you have 20 people reporting to you. It's going to be very chaotic, right? If you're
Mm,
not developed to handle those kind of things. So since a lot of people want to hear a lot of technical things today, let me talk about the technical part of scaling, right? You can scale up, you can scale out. I always say vertical and horizontal. So, but there is an interesting philosophy I have when you're about to start a project, and the first thing people think about is microservice. I said, well, why do you want to use microservice for this? It will interest you to know that it's because maybe they work with big tech and that was the architecture there, right? Or
that they're using.
that's the anything. And you'll be surprised that you can scale monolith, right? You can also scale what's it called? A microservice. So a scaling monolith could be you add more, RAM, more storage, more CPU processors, all this kind of stuff. That's you're scaling it uh, up vertically. But you can also scale horizontally, where you add more instances, have more things processed in parallel. But before you start creating 17, I just something I'm interested too. We have close to 150 microservices where we are currently, but now we scale them down.
150?
You're talking about scale. Let's go scale. And when I say over
Okay.
100 something, it was close to 150 at some point. Now we scale down to say roughly 100 or thereabouts, and the system is super resilient. You
Mm.
understand? And some people say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And you build so because you're building for a lot of load. We power a lot of companies, across continents. So we need to be ready for that kind of scale. But then again, in hindsight, you don't have to build that much to scale. Okay. There is one misconception. People think that once you have Kubernetes, it means that you're ready for scale. That's not true. In fact, my philosophy is make sure that before you start adding too many complex layers to your engineering, be sure how each of the APIs work, how each of the services work. Like, do you have metrics that you can show me to see this single instance or this single service is capable of performing X and Y given the metrics? We call it back of the envelope, what's it called, process, where you tell me the computational costs associated with maybe an API or maybe a service. You understand why that is very important? Because if you jump straight at scaling, you might be scaling something that's poorly designed,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Queries are
That's
not
true.
salvable, DBs are not normalized, indices are not well placed. You're going to spend a hefty amount on infrastructure. Do you understand? So, engineering principle remains you have to be able to show data to justify an action. If you can't do that, it's just because you feel like it, or you read it, or you watch a podcast, or you read a book. You would spend a lot on infrastructure. It won't be, which will not be sustainable for a business. Okay. Then we have security skill. When you had just two people on the platform, there are some things you would not notice, and now suddenly you have 100, you have 1,000. There was something we call latent issues starts to evolve. Right? They were not there at the beginning, but now you have risk condition coming in. Right? You have maybe potential session swaps happening. You have DB locks happening. You have spikes. So some things will start to show, right? But if you have a system that's properly set up with what's it called, proper instrumentation and observability, at least it'll give you pointers as to where this thing is happening. But like I said, you don't want to experience some of this thing in production. You want to gather that data off that maybe a UAT environment or staging where you can show and say this is how this product scales. Yeah, let me pause a bit. So we're going to technical now.
Okay. 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 That's fine.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned something about Kubernetes, there was this post that I saw on Facebook of recent that all of us are going to Kubernetes here and there, but when Facebook started, there is nothing like Kubernetes,
Simple
and
server, right?
and
Simple
it
computer.
and it powers a lot of millions of users. So I was like, wow, if Facebook can do this, then why are we all shouting Kubernetes here and there, a lot of things here and there? I was like, wow. So when you talked about it, I just had to mention that.
Yeah, they are excellent technologies. I'm not in any way downplaying the importance of having either code as infrastructure or having excellent DevOps. No, but I'm saying that you have to justify them, right? There's a question my boss used to ask. If you say let's use certain technologies. Go say, but why do we need this? So you have to explain the why. If not, the what is
Justified.
not important. But a lot of people are not ready for that conversation. So why do we have all these things in place? Can somebody justify? What we are asking is, what is the engineering behind this decision? You
Mm.
understand? If you can't answer them, then you are going to build wrongly. You're going to cost the company a lot, especially for startup. You might burn up the credit or raise proceed round. You burn everything on bad engineering. And we're interested to know that over close to 80 startup fails in Africa. Right? Well, I won't tell you the failure reason, but it's a lot. That's a lot of failure if you look at it. You understand?
Wow.
Actually, not 80%, but about the number, maybe 50, 54%, sorry, they fail. And the failure is due to technical debt. You understand?
Mm.
And this is Africa, not Nigeria now, so you go, so you don't quote me wrong. 54% of Africans are failed due to technical debt in 3 years. It's just not sustainable. Yeah, go ahead.
So, you mentioning technical depth now. How do you balance business goal with technical depth, and also to sustain like long term sustainability in leadership decision? Because there is we have business goals and you also have technical depth. But from your own experience as a leader in this space, how do you balance the two together?
Let me start by saying that the reason why engineering exists is because there was a business, right? If not, you could go do your own engineering, go do pro bono, right? Nobody's gonna stop you to use any design pattern, any skill how you want. But if engineering exists within business, then to a large extent, I believe the business should shape the engineering. Okay, it's not the other way around. But if you look at it very critically, a lot of business are heavily dependent on engineering because it's not arranged properly. When I say that, I mean if engineering is set up in such a way that it's not able to power the business right, then we have a problem. Do you understand? Business has got goals, objective, got things to do, features to push, and you have engineering activity that is not enhancing that, either in terms of customer acquisition, revenue generation, burn rates. You don't pay attention to those things, then you're set up wrongly, right? So the reason I'm saying it because it's very critical for engineers to understand that this is not a pet project. This is not a community service. The reason you are actually writing code is because there is a business need. And I'm stressing this because people introduce technology that will cost the business a fortune. And the ROI is near to compared to nothing. Or you could equally get an open source equivalent to the solution. But because why would they use open source when we can use this? Come on. Certain use open source don't mean you are vulnerable. If you can even use very expensive stuff and still be vulnerable. It's not about the cost. You have to justify the business need for certain technology. That's what I'm saying. So then again, some companies have budgets. Engineers are not known to pay attention to that budget, right? So either you we spend $10,000 for a company that is not raising, they're not even earning anything yet. Do you understand? So it's very hard to see engineers that are business centric. So I say the first thing you need to do is to educate people about the cost of the certain technological decision. You understand? Because it compounds very fast. So that's another thing I need to mention. Okay, you cannot replace software engineering with what's it called, majorly coding academy, because some of them are designed to get it out very fast. You're not properly baked. There are very few code academy out there that can really shape engineers to be solid engineers. And the other way to learn is to be, some people are I was privileged, I say, to grow up in the company where I see a lot of stars around me. You know, some people that you can ask tough questions and they'll say, okay, come and see how this thing works. Not just people throw books at you. Do you understand? So you get to see things really skill. Like you get to ask question that really matters. Do you understand? So I interview people a lot, and what I discover mostly is that people use tools without understanding what they are for. You understand? Like, you're telling me about so many tools, and I describe a problem, specific problems that you, a business need. You're not able to use that tool to solve that problem. That's what I have seen so many times. You understand? So if we must really shape a lot of things, we must try to build engineers that understand a bit of the business, right? If you are in the
Okay.
tech space, there are something that matters. Sorry, if you are in the African startup, if it's fintech, if it what's it called, KSRs or consumer goods sector, there are some things metrics that matters to them. If you're in healthcare, there are some metrics that matters to them.
Yes, EdTech and the likes.
Finally, people who understand these things emigrating out of the country. country. So Africa is about 650,000 developers, but I think this year to next year. So we're in shortage. People who know stuff are left.
Already, yeah, it's true, it's true. Even the people that are still, for example,
Okay.
in Nigeria, people that are still in Nigeria that are doing great things,
Yeah.
they're not working for Nigerian companies. That's just how, as
They're
in, if no, no, the percentage, right? We won't go there, but the percentage of engineers that are great that are working in Nigeria, the
Mhm.
percentage of them working in abroad, I mean, even remotely, is on the high side, very high side.
It, it's
But
it,
we come back to that. We come back to that. There is a question that I want to ask regarding hiring that you talked about
okay. Yeah.
earlier on. So when you are hiring
Yeah.
a user, or because you've done that several times as
Mhm.
engineering lead,
Mhm.
beyond technical skills, right? What quality do you look at for?
I mentioned it shortly. I'll say it again. Your ability to understand that the reason engineering exists is to meet a need, business need. Like, because if you don't know that, your mindset will be shaped differently. You might not have sense of urgency. You might not have sense of what's it called. Some things don't matter to you. Okay. So if I had my way, I'll make it a rule for freshmen and fresh engineers to start from support. Go see the pain of the customers. See that feature you're not pushing, or that feature you feel like when you have time you do it. Somebody's paying the price for it. Do you understand?
That's true.
So I look at how much you see your engineering activities affect things like growth, affect acquisition, affect revenue, affect security, affect sustainability. Like, I ask those questions because if you're not aware of them, then what kind of engineer are you? You understand? It is called engineering for a reason and not just programming. If you tell me you're a programmer, I might not
Yes.
ask you questions on engineering. But if you say it's engineering, then you must be able to justify. There is cost associated with things. Do you understand? So part of the things that I also think leaders should provide, you need to tell people the truth. A lot of people are not being told the truth. Just because you create a website does not make you an engineer. You understand? Because a lot of things go beyond just websites or pet projects. You understand? So for me, I look at that number one, and number two, how hands-on are you? You can read a lot of fantastic book, but when you start to get hands-on, there are some things that will surface that you never see before.
Yeah.
Witness some things I never seen before, even after over 15 years. So that's the way to you cannot talk your way into being a great engineer. You have to get your hands
Mm,
dirty. You have to solve real tough problems. And you sometimes you
problem.
don't go hunting them down, they will come hunting you down, especially depending on the kind of skill you're dealing with. You understand? So, but you can't still remove the need to apply yourself. You can join pro bonos. Here in Barcelona, there are quite a number of pro bonos that I participate in, right? And you will see a different type of problem. Some of them could be compliance problem because it could be creating solutions for people who are not underserved people in the healthcare sector, and some things you can't do because who is going to be liable for AI prescribing something wrongly? Do you understand? So it will transcend just engineering. You need to ask. other necessary or important questions. Do you understand? So that let's just do a recap quickly. Aside from being somebody that understands basic engineering principles like scalability, security, performance, uptime metrics, you also need to be somebody who understands a bit of where the business is or what the company's priorities are. Then
Yeah.
soft skills.
Let's go.
Recently, I discovered that a lot of, I don't know how, but a lot of Nigerians are incapable of working in a team. Right? You can't bring them in and fit them somewhere else because if it is, you can bring an architect from somewhere and bring them into another place. Or engineering principles should stay the same. Yet the application might be different, but the principles should stay the same, right?
Yeah,
When you
definitely.
bring people out into another place, they are lost, and that's because I feel like if there is a way for people to start their career by understanding software engineering before they now start application, it might help. Do you understand? But that doesn't happen. So you see people who doesn't understand very basic things, maybe branching strategy, or release strategy, or collaboration, you understand, peer programming, very basic things, are very, very hard. Because now ego starts to come in, people start to create things that are half baked, you can't sustain. You start things halfway. You join the company, the first thing is let's rewrite. I hear that a lot. I say, but why do you need to rewrite this thing? I'm serious. Like, why do you need to rewrite? And sometimes they don't even sit down to understand what is being built. It's too lazy to sit down to understand what's being built. Just want to rewrite. At what cost is that going to come at? And before you know it,
And that and,
Gen Z people 6 months, 1 year, they're out again.
and that really happens a lot when a new engineer or someone that just maybe understand like microservice now.
Yeah, yeah.
Your application is monolithic. Let's do microservice. Microservice is the next thing. I was like,
And
it's not always like
applications
that.
start with monolith, but make sure they're modular, right? Because if you're modular,
Yeah,
that will be easy for you to decouple. Then again, like I
to
said,
decouple.
to
Yeah.
understand engineering, because if things are tightly interwoven, how will you break them apart? If when
That's
they
true.
modular, I say in the true sense of modularity, you understand? Either from the service layer, the repository layer, the API layer, the database, everything must be modular. If you don't design it that way, it will be super hard to even break down into microservices. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful explanation, sincerely speaking. Because a lot of people normally just I've seen it a lot, especially around in Nigeria, so
Yeah.
to say. I've seen it a lot, a lot. But working in um outside of Nigeria, the couple of the difference is actually wide. It's actually wide. The way they do things, operate things, is totally different from where I'm from.
Yeah,
Sincerely,
because the constraints are different. And I tell you, this is not to downplay any rock star engineers because I see fantastic engineers in Nigeria. I am still Nigerian at heart, right? Even though I might be working from outside the country, I still do a lot of stuff that I believe that and contribute. I was with Decagon for a bit, right, as a consultant. So I still try to contribute to a lot of startups to the way I can. Because that's the only way. If you get some of this experience outside the country, we must find a way to bring them back and to develop
yeah,
our.
give it back to the
Because
community.
if
Yeah,
we don't do that, we can't just keep complaining about the problem. Do you understand? Then again, I think it's just some people don't just have that opportunity to see how things should be done properly, or they're not being educated. That's why I feel leadership plays a very critical role when people come to work with you. Right? They must have the full balance of number one, psychological safety. There is organ development. I'm not sure if you understand that design pattern, where it is only anything my
yeah.
boss is organ development. I'm creating this thing because my boss told me to, and if I don't do that, I get in trouble. Right? So, but there is context control. It's the responsibility of leaders to keep explaining the whys, provide people with a why. What is the business goal? What are our constraints? The team can figure out how to do anything, but make sure they are very clear on the constraints. This is our budget. This is where we are headed. You understand? So then again, foster what's it called? An atmosphere, psychological safety. Why am I saying this? If you notice, I don't know if it is true to you also. A lot of environments you cannot disagree with your boss because
Yes, definitely. A lot. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
you can't disagree with your boss. But if you step out of the country, you see somebody who may be a freshman telling the boss that this idea is rubbish or it doesn't make sense.
Yes, yes, I've seen it
Yeah, that's
several times. I've seen it.
because a part of Africanness gets into that space too, where a lot of people believe if I speak to this, so as you sir, if I don't use sir before my next sentence, I get in trouble. So there's no psychological safety. So that means that companies must, create that environment that foster people to admit mistake, to ask questions, propose wild idea, and you don't, don't consider, don't talk down on them, don't make them feel like they're not, able to speak in that space. Just point out the flaws in that idea of you. If or it is what I do is that if you have a sandbox, you can create sandbox for people like that. So I want to rebuild. I think the only way to solve this thing is rebuild. I look at the cost. Okay, it might not cost us so
Implication
much
of it.
for the person to realize rebuilding is not a problem. Then go ahead and start. I like to do that. So when you start and you start asking all the questions of things that already exist, then you see that the rebuilding is not the problem. Or if during one-on-ones we can ask this question, say, um, what happens to this, what happens to that, who's who, because truly they're just ambitious people. Ambitious people who see everything from engineering point of view. You understand? So it's
Yes.
an interesting what's it called? Interesting mashup. But I tell you for free, the role of leadership, providing context, providing clear goals, like what we do at Civient, we have roadmap, right, provided by the ecosystem. So it means that what we're supposed to focus on for the month, for the quarter, it's very clear. And if it's very clear, it gives people time to innovate around it, to think about it, right? It's not when you come to office, what am I doing today? You can't build coherently that way. You understand? Some companies outside the country, there's something called technology radar, and it's so beautiful because technology radar kind of shows you the commonly used technology today, the ones that near extinction, the ones that are gaining traction. So even as engineer, you can decide what you want to focus on. Because if a
Focus
particular
on.
engineering technology tool is no longer going to be useful or relevant, you don't want to push people to learn it.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't even want to prioritize within. I was speaking to somebody recently, and they saying that somebody is using old technology to build in. I said, what do you mean old Java? They call old technology. I said, well, how did you think about that? There's no engineering context. You just want to jump on TypeScript. So it's interesting when you speak with people from different backgrounds because the way they see is very different. If you speak to me now, even if I can use spreadsheet to achieve, I'm not saying I use spreadsheet. If I can maximize, there are a lot of businesses running on spreadsheet and they're profitable.
Yeah, yeah.
I focus on profitability and minimal engineering that has all the verticals that I described: security, scale, customer centric, all those kind of stuff, are fused together than elaborate technology or engineering that is heading nowhere. You understand? So that's where I am right now. So I provide you with context on what uh, engineers, leaders should be. You need to measure, have true and honest measurement of success. If you don't describe or define what success is, people will not know how to arrange themselves, align themselves with that. Right? Either you
With
put
that, yeah, that's true.
PRs, KPIs, but make sure it's very clear what success is. Lastly, on that point, when you're hiring, make sure you have clear objective of what the person is coming to do. Don't just hire and then figure out what people will do because then they come with a lot of anticipation and they're made to sit on the bench doing nothing. That's not a
I
good
don't know what I want to do.
You are not the one asking them, so what are you doing? Why are you not doing anything? No, don't do that. Create clear goals, clear objective of why you need to increase the headcount. If not, it's better you get contractors. If you're not sure if there is a need for a particular person to join because the workload is suddenly a lot, so okay, we're doing so much, want to launch very soon. Get contractors to decongest that load so you don't increase the headcounts. Because if not, you we need more people, we need more people. Now you had 10 more people, off peak period, you're not sure what to do with them. You want to lay off or you're burning
You
a
want
lot.
to lay off again? Yeah.
You get so you need to know when to increase the headcount or to just get contractors and outsource some non-sensitive things out to the company.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. So in Africa perspective, right? So you've been out of Nigeria for a while.
Okay.
I'm bringing it home now. You've been out of Nigeria for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I can see there are a lot of initiatives that government are doing. Uh, but let's put it in this form. Where do you see Africa currently in this digital transformation?
I would want to use this. I want to add, permit me to use the commonly abused word AI. It's been abused so much because everybody wants to slap AI on anything. Like we must be at the forefront. We must use AI. The question is for what? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't harness the strength of it, but I'm saying that you need to be very clear on what you are trying to achieve before you slap that on it. But then again, I see that we are more consumers. I think we were having a chat with someone on Twitter recently, and the person said we are lagging behind in the AI space, right? And it is true because a lot of us consume more of the models that are being created, right?
Yes.
Or when I say ASP, I'm not speaking in terms of just models because there is a knowledge part, there is different part of the different component that comes together.
Training.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of things. Yeah.
exactly. So, and you won't blame because to do those kind of groundbreaking stuff, you need to do a lot of research, right? I know people, I don't want to mention this right now, that are heavily invested in research, groundbreaking research, but there's no commensurate, what's it called, return for them because we don't value it. Do you understand? There are no grants, there's no, maybe there is now, but I say there's not enough, do you understand, investment into that space. Do you understand? And you cannot do research on hungry belly. You understand? So we need to start seeing the need to have a research center to value it, to invest in it. Because there was a bug somebody reported last month. It was trying to use an SDK to scan to do facial recognition, and it
Okay.
works, guy, because he's doing it from Germany, and the guy in Nigeria kept saying it's not working. So when I looked into because I've seen the problem before a long time ago about biases in the tech space, I said the SDK was trained with white people's face, and they went to do research. That was so. You won't blame them. So the question is, do you have an implemented SDK that is trained with the black people's face? So don't call them racist. They have enough
Mm.
creating solutions for them that work for them.
They have data. They have enough data to work with.
That's the honest truth. We need people to do the same thing, right? So you will see the same thing, either e-governance. The governance system created will be modeled after something else. It might not be very, talk to our own niche, speak to our niche. So, and the same thing too, when we copy, we need to copy smart. But then the only way we can copy smart is understand our terrain, understand what matters to us, and factor that in, do you understand,
Mm.
into our development and the entire ecosystem. I don't know if what
Mm.
I'm saying is making sense. So,
Yes, it does because I've seen a lot of things regarding this digital transformation as a whole, especially in Nigeria. And what you're actually talking about is some of the explanation that I got from someone when I also talked about that.
mhm. And it's not just we're not just in this alone. We have countries like India used to do that. Like I think I was surprised to hear that Ghana processed, is it 200 million transaction, eh, more than the entire, is it US or so? Mobile, sorry, mobile money. mobile money
Mobile
transfer.
money. Okay.
But mobile money is working. See what POS is doing. POS has been for a long time, but see the kind of disruption it is bringing to our own space,
Oh
right?
yes.
Some people think it is a new technology. No, in 2009, one of my responsibilities was to ensure uptime of POSs when I was working at InterSwitch. Do you understand? Well, it
Wow.
was very phone technologies that maybe it cost 100,000. And say you can to do the operation. Oh, sorry, you can do the conversion. How much it will be today? That was what I was doing. But today you can have POSs that cost a couple of thousands. You understand? Not as much as that because then it just bank will order this thing and distribute it to different places. Now we have people who can. So imagine if somebody did not create something uh, specifically for the African system. We will be copying people from outside the country and it won't work here. So in summary, what I'm saying is that even if we want to copy, we have to copy with the mindset of the peculiarity of our problem. Do you understand? You want to bring e-taxi, is there light? You understand? No lights, charge them. So you have a bigger problem to solve. So it's not because you don't want to bring those things, but the
I
infrastructure
need.
must be on ground to support them. I'm happy that we have MTN Cloud now, right? Because if not, you have a startup that's already been built in dollars, and how much are you earning in naira? Inflation will just erode all your profits. You understand? So, yeah, to solve African problems, you must understand the African space. You understand? And also don't forget we have a consumer behavior. So when you are bringing this thing in, you want people to pay for knowledge. You want people to pay for research. Yeah, you want people to pay for consultancy. Yeah, we are priced differently. We are priced differently. Then again,
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
re- regarding the infrastructure that you talked about,
Okay.
do you think, from your own experience, do you think government can help us in that regard? Because, like you rightly mentioned, even the cost of a startup coming up and try to build something, there are even some policies, right, that
Okay.
will affect them. So, especially, let me just pick an example, right? You trying to build a startup around cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Now, say what Nigeria brought up a few, I think, is it not a few months back, regarding policy regarding cryptocurrency and the likes. So, even startups should also be aware that policy can also affect them. But from your own experience, what do you think we can actually do regarding that?
Every time somebody asks, what is the government policy? I say, in Africa, we are the government. But then just on the lighter mode. It's a lot. And I'm super happy with some of the transformation happening today. But my mentor, Professor Fakmede, would say, we have depended so much on the government that some people are even waiting for government to come and clean outside of their houses. This thing is dirty. They blame the government. They are hungry. They blame the government. I'm not saying government don't have some critical responsibilities like good roads and all that kind of stuff, policing. But there are some things that government won't do for us.
Definitely.
You understand? So now on policy, I would say that this is not. I'm very careful with my word choice of words because I don't know who's going to watch this podcast afterwards. um,
I
government
understand.
collaborate more with startups to understand their needs and create frameworks that works for them. I'll say that again. There need to be a lot of collaboration. We see more of sanctioning, right? Sanctions are good, but then
Mhm.
people don't understand how to operate compliantly. You create bigger problems. We just say the government banned this, government banned that. The question, who wants to operate there? So what do we need to do to operate compliantly? Do you understand? It would be interesting to know that Europe already created AI, what's it called, governance. So you could go read every single thing, the do's and don't know what they want you to do on the AI in the AI space. But if we discover that maybe a lot of fake news are being propagated using the AI, government is going to ban it very soon. but you don't respond with those kind of things. You need to understand what are the, data protection, data privacy, how do you stop the spread of fake news. I'm not sure if it's Romania or so, or Poland, that have given people the rights to their digital assets, your faces, your voice. They cannot be used without your consent. Do you understand? So these are some of things that we need to also find and figure out to do. In 2017, like I said, there were a lot of banning without asking questions. Eventually, we sat down with regulators to craft the sub-broker license that is being used for trading today. But that wouldn't have been possible if we didn't sit down to, for them to understand what we're doing. The same thing needs to happen.
That's true.
I don't need to happen already. They need to be sitting down to understand how can this thing be used for maybe terrorist activity, like you said, or fraudulent activity. How can we, regulate it? You can't control because decentralized. You can't control it, but how can you regulate it? So we need more of those kind of things. And I'm not saying just the fintech space; it also applies to healthcare, right? Sometimes when this thing gets so big, like maybe somebody raised $7 million, aha, we need to regulate the space. Not because of that. I'm telling you, sometimes it's when the place starts to get traction before you get to know about them. But imagine a proactive setup where governments can understand new innovation and see, okay, what can we put in place to guard people operating in this space, right? To protect people, customers, businesses. Yeah, that's kind of framework would help, more innovators. Because I know people personally, co-founders that have left the country and see they're not going to create anything in Nigeria again. The people who are very bullish on the continent have left. And the reason it's said is that no matter how hard you go, politics will always get in the way. In politics,
Yeah, definitely.
you have to know one person that knows another person. You can call somebody when they come for you. Like, come on, you can't survive like that. We need businesses that can stand on their own with little politics. So that's what I have to say on that. I hope I have not been too I have not swayed to the right or to the
No,
left.
no, 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 yeah, no, 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 not at all, not at all, not at all, not at all. Thank you so much for all this explanation. It has been a wonderful session with you today, sincerely speaking, because there are a couple of things that I personally have gathered from even hiring down to the digital transformation to scaling and a lot. You've actually explained quite a lot of things today, sincerely speaking.
Definitely.
But before we wrap it up today, if you could give an advice, right, to the young African engineers that are building stuffs,
Mhm.
what would that be?
Great. And thankfully, you give this advice freely all the time. If you want to come into engineering and you don't have an engineering background, or maybe you are Nigerian paper and biro or engineers, you learn to code on paper and biro on the board. If you're like that, you need to understand that there is something called software engineering. And we are in a world where knowledge is free, or nearly free, let's
Yeah.
say. You could take an openware course on MIT, Stanford, understand how things are being built. Don't jump at writing things you don't understand and slapping a lot of vocabulary on top of it. Go take a course on software engineering, take a course on quality assurance, take a course on product management. Understand how these things are being, or definitely, you have to listen carefully because the way they would explain some of those things, how they're being built outside the country. Do you understand? But understand
Yeah.
engineering properly. It is going to go a long way. You can't, some people say you need maths. Yes, you need maths because when you get to algorithms, you need to understand how things scale on that level.
Data structure.
Computational complexities, you need to know. You understand? Database scaling too, you need to take courses. So it means that knowledge is very critical to your growth because I have seen people who've been in the space for a long time, 10 years, and when you ask them a generic question, hard for them to answer. It's not to speak down on them, but then somebody needs to ask those real questions. What is engineering on building? You understand? Or if you're building a skill, what are the things you're likely to see a skill? Have people built a skill before? What did they do differently? Can I, take a course on that or take a book? or watch a video on that. So we need to understand what we don't know. No bragado, no arrogance. You have to learn. You have to read. Africa is fast paced.
Learning.
Africa is fast paced compared to Europe. So we can do planning on something for 6 months. The same time it will take an Africa to finish the entire product. you, have to,
Get
you,
to
have to,
work.
you have to learn to calm down when you get outside the country because things are not as crazy as it is out there, right? And we have specialization. People might not believe in that, but one engineer is doing back end, doing front end, doing mobile, doing integration, doing AI.
A lot. You do testing.
So I just, in summary, what I'm saying is that knowledge, you can't detach knowledge from the whole process. And make sure you're learning properly. If you struggle with some things, ask yourself, are there books, are there courses I can take? Some of them are free, some are paid. You can even ask AI to craft out a curriculum for you and follow that path. Because we are in a
like
world
a
where,
like a roadmap.
yeah, you can. We're in a world where AI can do so much, but only a few people can use it to, can harness it to achieve very specific objective. So now you generated a whole solution. So what is the solution doing? Like you can't explain. How do you maintain the solution? You can't explain. You go back to AI. How do I maintain this thing? So it's not sustainable. You go in vicious cycle. But if you understand how things work, you can guide AI or use AI tools to achieve things more efficiently. So yeah, that's where I put it. Did you hear? Did you get that? Uh, can you hear me? Or what today? Hello? Okay. I'm guessing it's the network. Okay. I just pause.
Can you hear me now? I think my network went
Yeah.
off. Not really sure
Are you
how
serious?
that happened.
Click.
Like
What's
I
happening?
don't know how that happened. It's on it's unusual. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Mm,
know.
it's okay.
Apologies for that. Apologies.
Okay.
So we are almost rounding up as well. But I still have one more question. There are a couple of people that normally reach out to me that they need mentorship because it's easier when you have someone to hold your hands in this industry, especially as a software engineer, QA,
Mm,
product manager. It's actually easier because when you are blocked somewhere, you can basically reach out to, like you rightly mentioned, that you have a mentor.
yeah.
That's should in case you need anything, you can actually reach out to the mentor to actually guide your steps. So, are you open to mentorships? Should in case there are people that actually want to learn one or two things regarding the software engineering?
Okay, let me just provide context. They are teachers, they are tutors, and they are mentors. They are not the same. I have like about 4 or 5 mentors, right? For different events or different purposes. So when you're looking for a mentor, your mentor talks about somebody who's maybe apply a particular path you want to apply and can provide you with context, guidance, implication to certain decisions. Don't mistake. Some of them are highly super busy, right? If you need somebody
Yeah.
to teach you or to coach you, it's very different. So, for example, somebody meets me now and say, "Oh, I want to get better at engineering." I will recommend some text for you. But if you what you have in mind is I'll sit you down and show you this is how to do this, this is how, a very different
No,
paradigm.
no.
In a sense, I'm happy to provide guidance. I do that a lot, like I told you. Doing that on the auspices of Decagon at some point. Also doing that actively now. I have a mentee in Somalia. Shout out to Muna. She's doing fantastic so far. I have one in Georgia. That's Luca. Shout out to him too. I have in Nigeria, a lot in Nigeria. One is a Obalende developer. He knows himself. So I've quite a lot of people that I can speak to, being a part of their lives, right, actively. But I don't sit them to tell them, come this how to do it, this how to do that. No, it's more of tell me what you're trying to achieve, and I can provide you maybe with guidance. If I can't, I can at least I can refer you to somebody I know would help. There are some people I refer, oh, product management, or somebody I can refer you to. But the goal is not for the person sits here and be teaching you. To just provide guidance on things that work for them, things that haven't. Right. The goal is not to mold you into me. The goal is to provide you what has worked for me. All right. So yeah, I
Mm.
do that. But like I said, I just put the caveat there. This is not a teaching exercise. Not actually down to explain how to write.
And
It doesn't work like that.
okay, I understand. I understand. I understand. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing
A pleasure being here too.
deep insights on leadership system design. A lot of things from Africa to digital transformation. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
really appreciate. To our listeners on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all our channels. I know you have picked one or two things from this episode. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to follow us on Tech Nigeria FM on YouTube, LinkedIn. Until next time, I'm
Awesome.
Babatunde Sanju. Uh, like I do say, keep building, keep innovating. I so much believe that we want to hear your story as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Have a fantastic day, guys. Yeah. Shout out to
And
Tech
you too.
Tech.